Well, I don't believe in the military-industrial complex, but
What do you mean you don't believe in it?
right. So do you know how much money how much money Lockheed Martin made in 2023?
I have no clue, but if I was to guess,
what is the name of your fact checker?
Steve.
Steve? I don't know if Steve
with a PH.
Steve with a PH. So Steve with a PH can probably look this up real quick. But I'm going to do this from memory. So Lockheed Martin made $8.7 billion last year. Am I right?
That's it? I thought it would be more
Lockheed
than that.
Martin, I think it was $8.7 billion for their total profit, their earnings.
Click.
Now,
You can just Google it. You don't have to go to images. I'm sure it's just right on Google. Oh, no, you just had it.
it's okay.
There you go. $67.6 billion in 2023 net sales compared to 66
net earnings. Net earnings were $6.9 billion. So that's what you got to concentrate on. Net earnings.
What's the difference between earnings and sales?
Well, I mean, the earnings are what you're bringing in after your sales, right?
So net earnings, I guess that's saying that's profit.
Yeah, that's your profit.
Okay.
So $6.9 billion in profit. I was wrong. So I think it was 8.7, $6.9 billion. Now take a wild guess what Apple brought in.
A wild guess what Apple
$97 billion. I want to say it's $97 billion in profit. So 2003 Apple revenue should be around $97 billion.
Sipples.
It's okay. So, yeah, Apple
$383 billion.
97
in net
$97
income.
billion.
Right.
So now, I want you to imagine that you're a congressman, and there's two guys sitting in your lobby, okay? And one guy is from Apple. They both got briefcases full of money. One guy's from Apple. One guy's from Lockheed Martin. Mm-hmm. Who are you asking into your office first?
Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no military-industrial complex. I bet if you look up Pfizer, I don't know what the numbers are for Pfizer or for pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, but what about who's the Mike Turner, I believe, the guy who is the Ohio congressman? Mm-hmm. He was the guy. There was all these. I don't know if you heard about the recent UAP hearings that were happening, and they were trying to disclose. There was a bill, and in there was this disclosure bill or whatever, where I think it was Battelle Memorial Institute and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and a bunch of the aerospace corporations that were based in Ohio were supposed to divulge all this secret information and divulge all their classified documents. And this guy was the only guy who was stopping that bill from going through, and he was the representative of that district where those companies were based. And obviously there was those companies were lobbying for it. And I mean, you can't deny that there's a ton of influence with these military contractors in the United States, right? So one thing that they do bring to the table is they do bring high-tech jobs. I think it's about 2 million Americans work in aerospace, roughly. So roughly about 2 million. Mm-hmm. But how many realtors are there? How many nurses are there? How many teachers are there? Right.
So, look, maybe back in the 50s or so, I think Eisenhower gave his military-industrial complex speech. I think it was in 1961 where he gave that speech, where he warned about the military-industrial complex. Now, maybe back then when you had multiple defense contractors, now I think you basically have 5.
Okay, well, there's one Apple. Can you look up total revenue for... What are the big 5? It's Lockheed, Boeing,
Raytheon,
Northrop Grumman,
McDonnell Douglas.
Is it like a name? Big 5?
Just
top 5 defense contractors. You could probably say
top 5 defense contractors revenue for 2023. So Lockheed Martin was 63. And now we're looking at. I'm sure this is gross, right? Yeah. Revenue. Gross revenue 63 million. RTX was 39 billion. Northrop Grumman was 32 billion. Show more rows.
And if you look at our budget, so I believe our budget is roughly Oh God.
Go. You're going too fast. There you go. $30 billion for Boeing. General Dynamics, $30 billion. So if you add these up, they're going to be. I mean, we spread them out. We don't just do one contractor.
It depends on what you're buying. Like, if find me a radio that isn't from L3 Harris. That's that they manufacture essentially all the radios.
Right. And what about the those new nuclear submarines that they're doing? Well, they're the Columbia class submarine.
Class?
Yeah, Google that. The new Columbia class nuclear submarines price, and who is producing those? $9 billion per unit. The planned Columbia class submarine is drawn in 2019 by Naval Sea Systems Command. Cost is $109.8 billion for 12 boats, projected in 2021, and $9.15 billion per unit. And they're building them now.
Oh, here we go.
They're also going to last for about 30, 40 years.
So they replaced the Ohio class nuclear submarines.
Yeah.
But that's crazy money. Yeah. And why do we need more of these nuclear submarines?
I'll tell you why. Because for every nuclear submarine you see, there's 2 you don't see.
Right.
Because for every nuclear submarine that's out at sea, one is going through training and one is going through refit at depot. So you don't need 1 nuclear submarine, you need 3. Right. If there's an accident or something like that, then you need to shuffle things around.
Right.
So whenever you see a nuclear submarine, you always have to think in 3s. Really, that's the case for almost any piece of military equipment, or at least any ship. We have, I think we have 11 aircraft carriers right now, and 3 are on patrol. There's the Eisenhower in the Gerald R. Ford in the Mediterranean, I believe. There's the Eisenhower in the Red Sea, and the Ronald Reagan is in Japan right now. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe. Yeah. And there's a couple of amphibious landing ships that are also around.
Yeah. It's interesting to me how, in the media, if you just pay attention to the headlines, the daily headlines of the people that are the most outspoken against these wars, right? Like the Russia-Ukraine war, or even if it's funding the Israel-Hamas war, they're not talking about like those submarines that we're spending $10 billion a piece on.
Yeah. How many are we buying? I don't know how many Columbia class. I don't know how many of the boomers, the Ohio class boomers we have, but it's probably around 12, maybe 20. I think maybe we have 20. So
you think we only have 20?
I think it's around that number, probably 20.
How
21.
many Ohio class nuclear subs does the U.S. have?
So
I saw this in Annie's new book, that nuclear war book. She has this incredible map. I think I sent it to you before, Stephen. We've talked about it on the podcast a few times. It's a map. 18 Ohio class submarines that contain 14 ballistic missiles per submarine.
Yeah, 4 of them were taken out of service to, I think they were replaced with cruise missiles, conventional cruise missiles, as basically arsenal ships, right? So we can fire conventional cruise missiles at bad guys.
Oh, really? Well, those subs have those MIRV rockets on them, right?
Yeah,
the
10,
multiple
10
reentry
warheads.
vehicles, yeah. Where so each rocket, I think each missile has 3 warheads on each one, I think it is.
I can't remember whether it's 3 or 10, but that's easy enough. They're called Trident missiles.
Right. That's just like mind-bending technology.
We've had
to me.
that technology since the 60s.
We can launch this thing, and then it computer tells each little warhead what target to hit. That's just wild to me.
Yeah, and actually, the funny thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of the U-2 spy plane.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So we actually didn't really realize the Earth was kind of egg-shaped until we sent U-2s up.
Really?
And, the information was like, wow, that's kind of weird.
It's wider at the equators.
Telemetry for our missiles back in the 60s was wrong. Back in the 50s and 60s was wrong. We were going to miss cities by miles.
Oh, really?
Because we were dealing with a spherical Earth instead of kind of an egg-shaped Earth. So, it was the U-2 that figured out, wait a minute, the Earth isn't exactly what we thought it was.
Wow.
U-2 is a fascinating plane.
The U-2 is a fascinating plane.
And it's still in service. They still got that thing flying.
What about the SR-71? Is it the Blackbird SR-71?
Yeah.
That's why they created Area 51. Was to develop those.
I buy that.
Those planes back in the day, and I think no, that was the U-2. So it was first, I think the U-2 was why they actually created Area 51 to develop that U-2, and then the SR-71 came after that.
Now, have you heard of the Glomar Explorer?
Remind me.
All right. So there was the book. I think it was called the Taking of K-19. Now, back in the early 1960s, I believe, this Russian ballistic missile submarine was out in the Pacific, and there was a failure. It was the K-19. You can see Glomar Explorer is fine too.
Glomar Explorer.
Yeah. So this is like a spy novel, but it's real. So.
Oh yes, I have heard of this. Yeah, we just talked about this on a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, this
the Russian submarine.
Went down, and they're like, we think we know where it is, and so the government went to Howard Hughes and said, will you come up with a fake ship that you're going to mine for manganese nodes, which is something crazy that Howard Hughes would do, right?
Right.
And Howard Hughes said, yes, I'll help you out. They built this ship. They went and got the submarine. They picked it up off the ocean floor. It broke in half. We got a little bit of it, but we got some code books and we learned some Russian nuclear secrets. And it's probably one of the best kept secrets of the Cold War.